So guys, by now hopefully you've seen my Antony Joshua Keys to Victory, Ways of Winning video. If you haven't, please do make sure you check it out. It'll be uploaded on my channel probably yesterday. Just done it now, but I'm going to try and put them a day apart. And I'm now going to discuss it from the other perspective. How can Charles Martin win this fight? And let's talk Charles Martin winning this fight by knockout first. How can Charles Martin win this fight by knockout? And in the Antony Joshua video, I discussed that Charles Martin's chin was largely untested. Antony Joshua's chin is slightly more tested because he actually took a very, very big punch from Dillian Whyte, who's known as a big puncher. And although Joshua was severely rattled from that punch, he didn't go down and he was able to recover. In terms of how Charles Martin can go about that, I would suggest early on in the fight, Charles Martin would be most likely to score an early knockout by adopting a sort of counter-punching style. On numerous occasions we've seen Joshua, seek and destroy in the early round or two of a fight. Come out like an absolute monster, tearing opponents apart. And clearly, upon doing that, Charles Martin is going to have to be mobile, he's going to have to be defensively sound, he's going to get his angles right, and he's going to have to take a look at Joshua. But the key thing will be to not panic and to look and see what kind of gaps emerge in the Antony Joshua defence whilst he's looking to engage. Will an opportunity arise for Charles Martin early in the same fashion that it arose for Dillian Whyte in the second round of their fight? And if Charles Martin does do that, does find that gap, is able to land a counter punch, will he have enough one punch power to render Antony Joshua unconscious? Now, Charles Martin does appear to be a big puncher. I don't believe he's as big a puncher as Joshua probably. I think Joshua probably has the edge in punching power going into this fight. But it'll be interesting to see if Charles Martin is able to test Antony Joshua's chin, how it will hold up. I also think Charles Martin should look to target the Antony Joshua body. A lot is made, including by myself, of the punch that landed on Antony Joshua's chin by Dillian Whyte. What not enough is made of is when Dillian Whyte actually hit Antony Joshua to the body in that second round. And I believe that led to a substantial lessening of output from Antony Joshua for the next round. I believe that incident happened in round 2, and I believe for the rest of round 2 and for the majority of round 3, Joshua became low volume. Either he was aware that there was a risk of getting hit to the body, or he was hurt from that body punch regardless. Now, Charles Martin to me is a better body puncher than Dillian Whyte. I've looked at Charles Martin. I think he puts punches well together to the body. He's a guy who can change levels, go high, go low. I'd like to see him start on Antony Joshua's body. I'd like to see him looking for gaps in Antony Joshua's defence, looking to counterpunch to the chin, but banking shots to the body straight away, and trying to weaken Antony Joshua, weaken his stamina as he gets late into the fight. And that is a key way that Charles Martin can win this fight. Charles Martin has gone later in fights than Antony Joshua. Joshua's a very muscular, heavy guy. I know Charles Martin is heavy, but in a different way. And there's going to be questions as to Antony Joshua's stamina, because at times that looked questionable in the Dillian Whyte fight. So another way is if Charles Martin can take this fight late, drag this into championship distance, let's say around 10, 11, 12. If Charles Martin's been banking body punching for the early parts of the fight and can drag that to this stage, will Antony Joshua become a sitting duck? Will those heavy arms with the massive biceps be starting to drop from an effective guard? Will he be able to take Joshua out late as the stamina starts to sap? I think that's a possibility, and I think Charles Martin for that reason is dangerous throughout this fight. because I think as long as Charles Martin's in there, he's got a chance of either winning by counter-punching or by taking Joshua out as his stamina starts to sap. I think those are key factors for Charles Martin to be considering. If I was Charles Martin and I was 3 or 4 rounds down in the card going into round 5 or 6, I at that point wouldn't panic. I'd continue to bank shots to the body and see what happens. Let's see what Antony Joshua looks like after a hard-fought 10-round fight with 2 rounds left to go. The inside is also a key territory in this fight. Charles Martin's a big guy, but he can fight on the inside. We didn't see much of that in the Glasgow fight, but those people who've watched early tapes of Charles Martin know that this guy can actually act within the pocket. This guy's got some short punches as well. He can drop a short hook to the body. He can come up the middle. Charles Martin has some punch variety, and he hits hard with a number of different punches. So the inside game could be key. Joshua has got the size advantage in this fight. He's got the range and the reach advantage. What Charles Martin cannot afford to do is let Joshua be at his most deadly, which is standing at the end of his jab, or have Joshua position you with your back to the ropes and let him tee off with the jab. Charles Martin's got to be outside of the range of the jab, which he can do in numerous ways. One, by movement, angles, head movement, leaning, bobbing, weaving. Also by coming in close. Possibly, we'll only find out on the night. Possibly Charles Martin will have an inside advantage here, and we're yet to establish how an inside fight will play out for Antony Joshua. It certainly, at this stage, wouldn't appear to be his preferable way of winning a fight. Whereas Charles Martin has shown that he does have that string to his bow in past fights for me. So I think those are key. In terms of how Charles Martin's going to knock out Antony Joshua, the counter-punching style early, when Joshua's seeking and destroying in the early rounds, banking punches to the body to try and drain up Joshua's stamina, take him out late, and mixing that up with some inside work as well, leaning on him. Charles Martin's a massive, big unit, heavy guy. You wrestle a bit with Antony Joshua, hit him to the body up close, shorten up your punches. That could be interesting, that could be intriguing. Take away the game plan from Joshua. Now, in terms of Charles Martin to win on points, it's difficult, because as I mentioned in my previous video, Antony Joshua has the crowd behind him. He's the home fighter. He's also got a substantial athletic advantage. He's a faster guy with immediately snappier looking punches than Charles Martin. So Charles Martin's going to have to look to outbox him in other ways. And I think one of the keys behind that is going to be timing and the southpaw stance. The southpaw stance can really unsettle an opponent. We saw that when Tony Thompson fought Klitschko, or even when Tyson Fury used that in spells against Vladimir Klitschko. Tyson Fury I didn't think was very effective out of the southpaw stance, but what was notable is Klitschko became even more ineffective whilst Tyson Fury was adopting that stance, which meant Tyson Fury was picking up the rounds. Sure, Antony Joshua is a very experienced, highly classy amateur who's fought top-class amateur southpaws, but he hasn't fought a southpaw yet in the pros. And I think Charles Martin should be looking to make the most of that, getting the angles right, and potentially looking to adopt a sort of quality, not quantity, counter-punching, boxing approach. Straight punches to the body, getting the jab moving. I think in terms of winning this fight on points, range is very key. Charles Martin is a shorter man than Antony Joshua. Joshua appears to have longer reach. I think Charles Martin's got to use the angles to sort of bob and weave out of Joshua's jab. Have Joshua missing, make Joshua chase, make Joshua look inaccurate, or he's got to stand in close and make it clear that he is the more elite inside fighter. To be honest, I'm not really putting too much faith in Charles Martin to win on points. I appreciate he's a vastly, he looks like a very good boxer from the tapes that we've seen of him. But I just think with Joshua's athletic advantage and with his home advantage, it's going to be a very tough ask to outpoint him. I think for Charles Martin, his best chances of winning this fight are on knockout. And I think he's got to catch Joshua rushing in with something to the chin, or he's got to go to the body. I'd like to see a sustained body attack combined with some pocket fighting where he closes the distance. I think that's going to test Joshua in ways he hasn't been tested before. Who knows how Joshua will respond, but it will certainly give Charles Martin a better chance of getting the victory over Antony Joshua than any of AJ's previous opponents. Let me know your thoughts. If you were Charles Martin's trainer, what would you be advising him to do? What is his best chance of beating Antony Joshua in this fight? How is he going to take Antony Joshua out? Is it sit, box, wait, stay out of trouble for 6-7 rounds, see what the Joshua stamina does? Or does he need a more proactive tactic? Does he need to find a way, find a method, find a punch of ending the fight early? Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this, do hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, you're just watching these videos, please hit subscribe so you don't miss out on my future stuff. Looking forward to this one, guys.